Episode 21, The Hobby Multiverse, the National 2023 episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to this. This is episode 21 of The Card Diary by Hobbyist Thompson. I am your podcast host, Denny Cards, and I am calling this episode The Hobby Multiverse, the National 2023 episode. So this is not a chapter episode where I monologue for an hour about, an aspect of the hobby, or a guest episode where, I ask a guest, an expert, to come on to talk about that particular aspect in the hobby. And we are going to get back to those guest episodes about content creation after this episode. But I would say that this is kind of like that Father's Day interlude episode. I went back and checked. I did that on June 19th. Today is July 16th, so almost exactly a month and almost exactly like 10 or so episodes, which I think has some nice symmetry to it. So I will admit that this wasn't really planned. I am recording this on the evening of the 16th, which is a Sunday. Earlier today, I went to the movies with my son, and that's why I'm recording this. I was planning for this to be a recording of a guest episode that I did last week, but we saw Spider-Man Across the Multiverse, and I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. And I am going to do my absolute best not to do any spoilers, but if that's a concern, I would really recommend that you not listen any further because I don't want anyone upset at me. But I really think, I hope that, that listening to this episode is not going to result in any spoilers because I did write out some of my thoughts. So, oh, and also I think there was so this is like the second multiverse movie for Spider-Man. The first one was in 2018. And so if you don't want anything spoiled about the Spider-Man movies, again, just another reason to stop the episode right here and just come back to our regularly scheduled programming in the next episode. Okay, so having said that, caveat, why am I doing this episode? Okay, so I will answer that question with a question, which is supremely annoying. I totally understand. But here's the question. Does the hobby pervade your life in such a way that any normal random thing you do during the course of the day, you're thinking about the hobby, or you're applying things you've learned from the hobby, or and then you're trying to make sense of the outside world, or vice versa, where things you're doing in the outside hobby, outside world, you're trying to apply to the hobby. Wow, I did that so confusingly, but sorry. We've come too far. I'm not going to re-record this. Um, yeah, just the hobby, microcosm of life, microcosm of society. So that's what I experienced today. Okay. So as I mentioned, we saw Spider-Man, and the entire time I'm watching the movie, I'm, watching this multiverse unfold, and I think it's fantastic. It's a beautifully awesome made movie. And I'm thinking about each of us in the hobby. We have our own lives, we have our own universes, if you will, and we go about it trying our best. Good things happen, bad things happen, and sometimes really good things and really bad things happen, right? So I feel like when we meet other people in the hobby, it's awesome when that happens. And I will say that um, I'm gonna call these folks hobbyists, and I'm being really intentional and not saying collector because within this grand multiverse within the hobby, I feel like there's so many different ways to be a hobbyist. Again, the main one being, like the collector. But, this whole premise of this podcast is talking about the different hats or the different ways to be in the hobby and learning about those things, right? Like being a flipper, being an investor, an industry insider, being a not cop, card shop owner, being a newbie, being a vendor at a card show, being a show promoter is something I want to talk about in a future episode. Being a breaker, being an eBay seller, stream seller, card artist. These are, things I've covered or want to cover. And within all those different iterations and hats, there are the different racial, gender, cultural backgrounds. So by the time I record and publish this, we are going to be 10 days away from the national. And so as I'm watching this movie, and again, it's beautifully done, but I couldn't help but think, wow, like in Rosemont, Illinois, all of our universes will be colliding together in the biggest way possible. Like our hobby multiverses will be merging for what some call, the Super Bowl within the hobby. So that's my lead in. So I'm done with the Spider-Man multiverse talk, but that's my lead in to talk about my plans for the National 2023. Um, I wanted some, way to talk about it. I thought maybe about not talking about it, but I have a podcast, I have a platform. So I just wanted to share my plans for National. And if it maybe aligns or comports with yours, maybe we could meet up. And if not, that's all right too, because, it's not the end all be all show. So, okay, here we go. I plan to get in the preview day, Wednesday, July 26th. My flight from DC to O'Hare gets me to Rosemont. I don't know, something like in the morning, like around noon. Check into my Airbnb sometime in the early afternoon. We're flying separately, but I'll meet up with my best card friend, Dave, the Rated Rabbi, and his real life friends too. Um, and later that day, we'll go to the preview from 4 to 8. And I thought about getting VIP tickets, decided against it, but I will say that I did get them when I went to my first national in 2012, and I got some free autographs from the likes of the one name I remember is like Jack Morris and other players, but I think they were all retired baseball, maybe some football players. I didn't really know any of them other than Jack Morris, and really that's mainly because of his sweet mustache, that very long red mustache, and I knew he was a pitcher. Otherwise, it's not like I was a Jack Morris fan. It was a free autograph. I don't know. I just stood in I think at that time it was like really short lines. We'll probably get dinner afterwards after the preview day ends, and I think people will still be filtering in. I'm sure it's going to be a relatively slow day. There is something called a Poke Party Wednesday night for Pokemon and TCG cards, I guess. I don't even know if it's a trade night. It just said Poke Party from the flyer I saw. And if my kids were coming, I'd take them to that, but this is a solo trip for me, so no family this time on this particular trip. And so I don't mind a quiet night, the first night in Chicago. So that's Wednesday. And then before I get to Thursday, oh yeah, my plan's going to be try to not spend my entire budget on that first day, especially because it's like a half day. But I've also heard apparently if you see what you want and it's very much on your pre-planned watch list or want list, you should try to get it. And yet there are different schools of thought to that. I do plan to be very selective and tight. Um, and after I go through my plan for each day, I'll share my 5 cards that I'm looking for. And maybe if you're listening, you can help. Awesome. If not, that's okay too. But conversely, I would love to know what you're looking for in national. Just DM me and let's try to help each other out. Like more eyes and more cards. I think that's for the better for everyone, right? Um, let's see. Thursday. Okay, so Thursday, I'm going to try to do less searching for cards, but of course, I'll always have my eye out on showcases. But I plan to walk around and talk to some industry insiders, corporate booths before it gets super busy on Friday and Saturday. There are a bunch of folks I've established relationships with within the hobby, and I figured it would be better to talk to them on Thursday before it gets jam packed the next 2 days. I also will plan on doing some grading submissions at that time. I already plan on bringing some Magic the Gathering cards, submitting them to, say, CGC, maybe some sports cards with tag. I haven't used them before. Every time I try to do it, the drop, it like sells out. I did hear that PSA lines are always super long. Maybe not on Thursday. I don't know. But again, I mean, last national I was in was 11 years ago, where nothing I learned from that time applies. But yeah, I'll see. But I'll have some raw cards that I'll plan to either, if not grade, just put in some trades. So that's my plan. Let's see. Trade night that night is the one I'm planning to go to. Is like the what is it? Kentucky Roadshow cards, Card Collector 2, Panini Drip, Heritage. That's what it said on the flyer. So I plan on doing that. Um, Friday. Oh, before I get to Friday, I do plan to be at a couple of booths, not really like selling, but more of like helping. And that's something I'll guess I'll plug here is, if we're already Instagram friends and your Wi-Fi or cell service is actually working to be able to use Instagram DMs, if you need help with something, just reach out. I mean, I don't know, like I'm not there just to buy, sell, and trade. Like I don't know, I just wanna be there, have a good time, and if there's people who are in need, like, I don't know, I can't promise I can help everyone, but there's something I can do, why not? Like, I'd be glad to try. Like, I'm always about trying different things, trying different things anyway, so if you, the very least, need a warm body to go to the restroom or something like that, I'd be glad to, do something like that. And maybe I won't be your first option. But actually, you know what? Please don't make me your first option. Please just keep me as a backup option after trying other people. But yeah, just hit me up on Instagram DMs, and yeah, it would be great to meet up. Friday, okay, Friday. I think this will be the first jam-packed day, and I definitely want to again meet more Instagram friends, make some content. One thing I like to do, which sounds really weird or creepy, I get, but is like kind of be a fly on the wall when deals are going on. It's not like I'm gonna be recording everything, but I actually like to just kind of watch deals happen or just the art of negotiation and just, I don't get into the middle of any of these deals, but I do feel like I learn a lot when I hear or see deals go down. Just listening to the jargon or the verbal and nonverbal communication used by both buyers and sellers, the body language. In my local card shows, I've done this, and I can sometimes guess whether a deal's going to happen or not, whether that coin's going to come out for a coin flip. And I never get involved. I'm not going to shove a microphone or a phone in anyone's face. And I'll always be asking people for their, consent for content. But yeah, I just want to just see the deals go down. If, again, if I'm not making my own, but again, I am not coming in with heat with either cards or budget. I'm gonna try. I mean, we'll see how well it holds, but my plan is to be pretty modest in both. Trade night Friday. It's really hard. This is probably the hardest night for me to try to plan out ahead of time. There are some dinner plans I'm being pulled into, which I'm very grateful for. But there's also two trade night events going on. There's this one with PSA and Don Diego for TCG, and I'm not a huge TCG person, but it would be nice to kind of get to know some more of the folks in PSA. Again, maybe I could do that in the corporate booths, but um, just wanted to kind of like, support the TCG community. And I actually do want to, I'm not exclusive to like sports cards. Like, again, my kids collect Pokemon. I have Magic cards, and it's definitely something that I'm finding myself more like getting into. Just another way for me to spend money, I guess. There's also the Wolfpack Networks trade night, and I'm a fan of their content within across their network, the Wolfpack Network. So those are three places, and I don't know how to be at three places at one time. So I think if I can stagger or get Ubers and just rush from one to the other, I really don't know what's going to happen. Um, I feel like it's doable if I'm using Hermione Granger's Time Turner necklace, which she wore in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. But otherwise, yeah, I either one or two places are gonna have to, be cut, and I'm having a really hard time figuring that out. So that might be a game time decision after talking with some folks and seeing where I'm pulled. Saturday, it's more of the same from Friday, but this is the day when I will be standing in line for autographs specifically. And I haven't bought the ticket yet, but I'm really excited to get the autograph for Angel Reese, who on the Nationals website shows to be scheduled for Saturday, July 29th at 4:30 p.m. She's the last autograph signer, and I imagine the line. I don't know. I could see it either being, I mean, really short, not really short, but I could see it being really long. But maybe it won't be as long. I don't know. I hope it is. I hope that as the only, you know, uh, woman athlete that there will be some demand, but who knows? So that's the main athlete autograph signing that I'm planning for. And the reason I don't want to stand in line for, say, someone like Barry Sanders, who I think is one of the top three running backs of all time, is he's been to Chantilly. It's closer to me, and so folks like him and Joe Montana, they go to a bunch of these signings, and they're some of the greats, but I feel like my time could be better suited to just wait for them for not the national. I would also love to get an autograph of Reggie Jackson for my mother-in-law, but in that instance, I think it might be better if she met him instead of me. And but I'm also of the belief that it's better not to meet not to meet your heroes either. But we'll see. Two other people that stood out to me: Urban Meyer. I'm a Florida Gator, so he's really conflicting for me because even though he won two titles as a Florida Gator coach, his exit was messy, and there's other things that are messy with him. But that's all I'll say because I don't think there's more that I need to say about him. Dennis Rodman, same thing. I really identified with his game so much as a kid. That grit, the hustle. I wasn't a good shooter. I loved playing defense, loved rebounding, and yet, oh man, as a Korean American, I will say that he's been really hard to root for in recent years. Um, again, I'm not going to get into that too much, but I will say I remember this. I almost stood in line in New York City when he did his book signing. It's the one where he like wore the wedding dress. But I think in hindsight, I think it was good that I didn't skip school to go to that book signing. Again, never meet your heroes, folks. Okay, moving on. Saturday night. There are no official trade nights that I know of yet, but I'm sure there will be things happening. Um, you know, at the very least, just getting dinner and summarizing with card friends about the show. It's just my favorite part. Just breaking bread, catching up, chopping it up. I love doing that. Uh, I love to eat. So we'll see. No reservations at Gibson's though, or anything like that. Um, yeah, I don't know how much sightseeing I'm gonna do in Chicago or Rosemont either. Like, I feel like I'm gonna be there for 5 days, but who knows how much light of day I'll actually be seeing. I've never been to Chicago, but I do hear it's the best summer city in the U.S., and so I'm really excited to just be in that area. Sunday, my flight leaves early in the morning, so it's more of a travel day. So for all intents and purposes, I won't be at the national. I'm just gonna wake up and just get the Uber and go to the airport in O'Hare. But this plan I think allows me to have a decent evening out on Saturday night. Hopefully, I won't go too hard or just be struggling to make my flight Sunday morning. But just I think it's better for me to leave Sunday morning than say Saturday evening or something like that. Okay, I'm gonna pause here so I can regroup and stretch my back and talk about my want list for national. All right, so my want list for national and in general, before I get to that, I want to say that I plan to reserve some of my budget towards grading fees, autographs, as mentioned earlier, also accessories like slab strongs, slab mags, unofficial sponsors, custom card art, which is I can't wait to get to those chapter episodes later in this podcast and have guests on. Um, and then I don't know, just I'm sure there's going to be like those Panini national packs, right? Like those three come in a pack, and I don't know. Like I know some people don't like those. Actually, there's a really I guess low demand for them, or the prices aren't like that high for those. But I think that's a cool way to like commemorate, even though maybe it's like artificial, rare parallel numbering. I think it's just cool to commemorate. I could also just buy them on the secondary market, but I figured I would maybe allot some of my budget towards those. Man, I have no clue. I should ask someone how much they are nowadays, but I feel like in 2012 when I bought those. I only bought like a couple. I think they were maybe something like $80 to $100. I mean, again, I can't remember the exact price. I wonder how much they are now. So anyway, um, let's get to the list. I guess I'm kind of putting it out into the universe, and maybe I say it and people help, and again, if not, it's all good because even if I get none of these cards on this want list, I'll still, so long as I have fun and meet folks and just just have a good time, I think it'll be a success. I don't really have a strong agenda for national. I I just want to have fun. That is what this is all about. So, um, let me start with my honorable mention, and that's before I get to the fifth. Number five is it's PMGs. Literally any PMG of a '90s basketball player. It could literally be the worst player, and I won't say player names, but worst player, worst grade. But I would like it in a holder, mainly for authenticity purposes. It doesn't have to be PSA either. I think I just want something evocative of that era in basketball, but not just basketball, but in basketball cards. But the reason it gets honorable mention is I think will be priced out of a lot of them. And so that's why, again, I'm not like putting that in high on my list. The fifth card, and I guess kind of like PMGs, it's a type of card, and that's any hot numbers. Again, I won't be picky about the grade, holder, or player. But I know that I'll be priced out of, say, like a Jordan, so maybe something like a Charles Barkley. And because Hot Numbers is more of an insert set, I think that it's not going to have like bad players. I should go check the checklist. I should have done that before I pressed record, but again, too far. These aren't too hard to find, but when you talk about classic '90s cards, lenticular technology, it just screams childhood nostalgia to me. So a much less desirable or much cheaper option is like these diamond vision cards. Again, you just kind of like tilt them up and down, and I have a couple of them, and I think again they're not they're like literally like dollar bin value cards, but dollar value bin cards, but I think they're cool. So number four is similar to the last two, and it's again like kind of like sets. And I'm not trying to be like a set completist with these, but it's just that I'm gonna look for these, and this is definitely more of like value bin stuff, and that's orange refractors from 2008 2009 Topps Chrome basketball. So those, I have some of the better players. I have some in holders, some in not. I bought some on eBay, and these can be raw. Like these are like a dime a dozen on eBay, but that's kind of like the dollar bin cards that I'm going to be going for, or maybe not dollar bin, but like value bin cards. Mainly so I don't have to pay shipping, and I think it's going to be fun diving into some of those boxes in National. So, that's my ideal uh, situation. Number three, man, I think a lot of these it's just kind of like not specific cards. I just realized. Okay, 2007, 2008 Upper Deck NBA Artifacts cards. Um, I have talked about the set. I don't know when this particular article is going to come out, but I wrote something about it, which I look forward to sharing. Hopefully, it gets published. Um, but when it comes to this particular set, it I would like to go for parallel numbered cards, and some game used cards. They actually have game used, not player worn. Preferably unique patches that are low parallel numbered. But it's a huge set, a huge checklist. I'm not trying to complete the set. I just want to have more of them because they make me smile. They make me remember those times of getting my first paycheck and having adult money and spending it on this. Uh, at that time, $50 a hobby box set was just insane, given that just the value at that time. I think it came that it gave. And so the patch versions, I think they are harder to come by on eBay, but I have seen quite a number of these cards on eBay via people selling through ComC. And I will say, even though I've bought from ComC through eBay, the platform itself is not one that I've actually tried out yet. I know a lot of people swear by it and they love it. I don't know why I haven't. I think uh I've slowed down my buying a lot. Maybe because of anticipation for national, but I don't know why I haven't gotten into it. But I will say at the time I'm recording this, I'm recording this during the end of the PWCC weekly auction because I definitely started getting uh, my budget was going towards that too much, and I thought maybe I need to stop. So the podcast gives me a good reason. Let's see. Number two is, yeah, I get more specific with a specific card, and that is going to be the Lamar Jackson National Treasures NFL Shield 1 of 1. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm making that joke because two of them have recently surfaced, putting into question which one's the real one. So kidding. Actually, there's no other sport than basketball on this list. Again, that's what I'm going to be going for. I mainly buy. I have some PC of football and basketball. I mentioned Barry Sanders earlier too, but I think that for national, I'm going to be focused on 90s basketball and also like pre Panini, like that. Topps Chrome artifacts. Those sets. So the real number two is a specific card. It's 1997-98 UD3 season ticket autograph of Penny Hardaway. Okay. So why this particular card? I have the Tim Hardaway one. I pack pulled it as a kid, and it's awesome. Love it. It's like the OG Contenders season ticket auto that everyone nowadays goes for. But I have the Tim Hardaway one. The Jordan one is exorbitantly expensive and unattainable for many people, not just like myself. And then I think there's a trade card of Tim Duncan that I've never actually seen, and it's not autographed. So I don't even know if that exists. Again, I could probably do a better job, but I did. I feel like I've looked on, I've done my research, trading card database and cardboard connection, but haven't seen that one. I have seen the what is it the Juwan Howard one. Again, doesn't come up often, and again, it's only a 4 card set. Um, Jordan, Penny, Juwan Howard. Who am I missing? What did I just say? I know the Tim Duncan one isn't real. Possibly, I don't know. All right, I'm gonna stop talking about this one because I don't have the full information. But it's funny how people thought at that time, Juwan Howard was a high pick. What was he? I'm gonna stop. Let me look it up. Sorry, I've been Juwan Howard on a blank. Wasn't he the number? No, I'm thinking about Joe Smith. Okay, see, it's not coming up. I put the wrong. All right, Juwan Howard was the 5th overall pick in the '94 draft. Okay, that sounds right. From Michigan, a Michigan man. Let's see who are the top. Okay, that was the Glenn Robinson year. Okay, it was Glenn Robinson, Jason Kidd, Grant Hill, Donnell Marshall, and then Juwan Howard. Some other notable ones. Let's see, Eddie Jones at pick 10. The Jalen Rose at 13. Yinkit Dare. I remember that name because he was an NBA Jam and he had like 0 assist rating. I think he literally ended his NBA career with like 0 or like 2 assists. But he was the 14th pick. I won't go through this whole thing, but oh man, this is awesome. Okay, all right, back on track. Back on track. Um, what did I say? Oh yeah, that was number two. I'll stop talking about number two. Penny Hardaway. All right, here's the number one card. Actually, I'm gonna pause again. All right, so the number one card on my want list for National 2023 is an on-card auto of Jeremy Lin in a Knicks uniform. So there are two things going on here. One, I don't want a sticker auto. I actually did buy recently on eBay a sticker auto of him in a Knicks uniform. And the second thing is, and I haven't showed it on Instagram yet, but it's I've received the package, I just haven't opened it up. And then the second thing going on is that, I don't want an on-card auto of him while he's wearing, say a jersey when he was on the Warriors, the Rockets, the Hawk, the Nets, things like that. And why is that the case? Okay, so let's do what I usually do and just dive in deep. So strap yourself in. I think the first thing, of course, it's really easy is, I've talked about this a lot. I don't hide from it. My Asian American identity. He is the first true Asian American to play in the NBA, and he played well, at least for that small, amazing lightning in a bottle time of insanity. Were there other Asian players before him? Yeah, there were. But they were from overseas. Okay, so they grew up outside of the U.S. Jeremy Lin was born in Torrance, California, grew up in Palo Alto, California, had immigrant parents from Taiwan. He was born 6 years after me, and Lin Sanity was absolutely incredible for Asian American representation. And this is where I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna just do a complete sidebar, and that's why I wanted to pause because I thought maybe I could like clip in a highlight without I don't know, like copyright issues or anything like that. But I just wanted to talk about Jeremy Lin a little bit. So I went to the Wizards game when that Linsanity run was happening, and I did have to look up the date. That's the other reason I wanted to pause. And it was actually February 8th, 2012. And again, I went to the 2012 National in July in Baltimore, and then I stopped collecting in the hobby like November or December of 2012 until I came back recently again. So I was literally in the last row of that arena, row P or something like that. I think tickets at that time, even for like upper, nosebleed, the last level, I think it was like something like $80 because again, the demand was really high for that game. Um, and that was a lot for what was really not a great Wizards team in the middle of the season. I forgot to look up what day of the week it was. I think it was the middle of the week. But again, just it should not have been that much, right? It was, and it wasn't artificial demand. It was like true high demand, because I remember I went with a friend who was Asian American. The arena was absolutely packed. It was definitely a sellout crowd. There were more Asian Americans in that arena that evening than I've ever seen in my days as a spectator for any sport. And this crowd, of which I was a part of, was so loud the entire game. At least that's what I remember. That's what my memory tells me. But I think it was the easiest. It was easily the loudest that I've heard that particular arena. I think at the time was called Verizon Center, but is now called Capital One Arena. But I don't know. Maybe it was also called the Capital Arena at that time in 2012. But I've been in some loud game environments. Again, I'm a Florida Gator. I've been to the Swamp. I've been to other um, college football stadiums and arenas, and I mean college basketball arenas. And college football is just 190,000, people, and it's just a totally different experience, and super loud. But I just remember that particular arena on that particular night. I mean, it was definitely the loudest I've ever heard. In that arena, where the Wizards play. All right, so what I'm gonna try is I have this queued up. I want to play a little clip from something I found on YouTube of the in-game commentary from that night. Here we go. All right, so when he's saying "Let's go," he has like this band-aid hanging off his chin. He's got that beautiful blue and orange Knicks uniform, the road jersey. He's like jumping in the air. He's like yelling "Let's go." I know right now people in the hobby hate They really do. I mean, I don't like using the word, but yeah, I mean, people hate Let's Go and LFG because it's associated with breakers and all that. But 2012, Lynn, Let's Go is awesome. It really was. So I wanted to end it there. Lynn that evening, I looked it up 23 points, 9 of 14 shooting, collected 10 assists. So he had a double double, 4 rebounds, 2 turnovers. And again, that last part of that clip that I just presented, it was when he had this amazing dunk where he just blew past John Wall. There was no help defense. People were just like, the commentators like, there's no defense on that. After that, the crowd was on its feet, not just Asian Americans, but people of all color. I remember when he did that, it was just the coolest thing. And he was the ultimate underdog. I listened to other parts of this highlight, and I remember, like, it's like every game during that run, and when he was relevant, they were talking about how he uh, got his economics degree, Harvard, all this underdog. He shouldn't be here, or he wasn't supposed to make it into the NBA and do this. So I thought that was just really neat. And yeah, you know what? Straight up, I don't even know if he has any on-card autos while the card is in a Knicks uniform. So why do I want that particular type of card? It really is to capture that moment in time, that moment in NBA history, that cultural moment around the world. That, again, I said it earlier, but that lightning in a bottle. And that's why we want on-card autos, right? To capture moments or capture, well, not everyone, but I guess I am romanticizing here, which I have been known to do. But here we go, more romance. To think that, the player took a ballpoint pen or painter's pen or Sharpie and just, touch the card itself with the non-dominant hand while having the flesh of his or her palm of the dominant hand brush across the card while signing it. You know, we want to think or know that the player cares, that they took their time, that it wasn't just one of thousands of cards during a signing session where they were annoyed to do it, that it was just for monetary gain or that their agent told them to do it. I think what some of us, or at least, I'll just speak for myself, is what I want to think is that they wanted to sign their names to thank me for caring enough about them to want their card. And I know that's just so pie in the sky and sounds ridiculous, but that's why I kind of like called out the initial autos in my Instagram post, which a lot of people got to endorse or co-sign off on with double tapping for the like. But I like to think that these athletes should want to care. That's why they make the big bucks, is TV marketing rights, and just the populace just being really rabid for their popularity. And so that's what being a fan is, right? It's the word fan. It's short for fanatic, right? Fanatics. And I tagged Michael Rubin on that initials autograph post, and who knows if it was actually him responding or if it was someone who's maintaining the social media account. But when I got that response, and they were like, we'll own up to it once we get the licenses, I thought that was really cool, again, whether it was him or not. But if you look up the definition of being a fanatic, not fanatics, but being a fanatic, um you don't even have to look up the dictionary meaning. It's someone who's irrational. A fanatic is someone who is rabid. And so I did, however, look up the Merriam-Webster online dictionary, because I can't remember the last time I had an actual physical dictionary. But the online version says that there are two meanings. Okay, so the first meaning is one that they actually upfront mention, is they call it the disapproving version, and that's hilarious. I love that. It's the disapproving version, but it's the first one. It comes up as a person exhibiting excessive enthusiasm and intense, uncritical devotion towards some controversial matter, parentheses, as in religion or politics, close parentheses. So that's their first definition. The second one is a person who is extremely enthusiastic about and devoted to some interest or activity. So I guess that's the approving version. So I just wanted to share that because my thought or my dream that these athletes care might very well be completely irrational. It may be, I'm certainly extremely enthusiastic. I mean, a lot of us who are in the hobby and collect cards, we are extremely enthusiastic. Are we devoted? Absolutely. Is it excessive? Well, that's I guess that's the disapproving version. Is it intense, uncritical devotion? I mean, again, that's um, debatable, I guess, for some of us. But yeah, I mean, it may be completely irrational for me to think that I want, that lightning in a bottle moment captured in a card that Lin signed during his, likely it wasn't during the run of Linsanity, but, sometime before or after, but the time when he was a Nick. That's what I would love to try to obtain. So that's why I devoted a little bit over 10 minutes on that one card, because that card represents um, something important to me in the realm of sports. So thank you for divulging me while I kind of talked about that. I wanted to do it, and it was the first time I actually spliced in like a YouTube video audio about it. Man, they were not playing defense, the Wizards. Um, Maybe this is my way of being inspired by, say, someone like Dave, the Raider Rabbi, who has a podcast where he like devotes the entire podcast on like this one All-Star game, right, in 1984. So shout out to him. For those of you who love vintage baseball, you will love his podcast and his YouTube videos, because that's it's really neat. It's not just sports; it's like pop culture and all that, and the zeitgeist at that time. So having said that, maybe this is a good time for me to just pause one more time to regroup, have a little bit more to say. And wow, I did not think I was going to go full hour, but it looks like it might go that way. All right, one moment. All right, so this is going to be the last segment of this. I don't think it's going to go full hour. So for those of you who don't like long podcasts, rejoice. But this is the part where I'm going to share something that I really contemplated uh, whether I was going to share or not. Um, it's something that only a very, very select few people in and out of the hobby knew about. But I do feel like this podcast is a part of me and it's part of my journey in the hobby. And if you're listening to this, thank you so much. So here's a little Easter egg if you got this far and you're listening to this particular episode. Because some people will just look at it and go, oh, it's not a guest episode. I'll just move on. And that's fine. But I will straight up say that I have been trying to get Michael Rubin, the CEO of Fanatics, on this podcast. Okay, there, I said it. Can't take it back. I'm not going to delete this. I thought about not sharing it, but I'm just going to put it out into universe. Um, I won't say how close I may or may not be, but I know that I've gotten a little bit further into the process, more than just say being left on red, or not having any emails or DMs returned. Um, and the reason I contemplated it is because I don't know if saying this out loud helps or hurts the cause in trying to get him. But you know, I know that he's going to be at the national. I mean, I don't know that. Let me just rephrase. I think it's an almost certainty that it's going to happen. I haven't really heard anyone talk about it. I don't know his schedule. I have no inside information. But it's reasonable, right? If he's going to other card shows, like he's going to a bourbon card shop, he's going to the card show in Philly, he's doing all these appearances. I think it's reasonable that he'll be there. So I mentioned it. I mean, I shared that just now because I mentioned his name earlier in the earlier segment. So I was like, you know what? I'll just put it out there. Yeah, I've been trying. This podcast did not exist 2 months ago. I continuously joke that, or half kiddingly joke that, it's the fastest growing hobby podcast because, you know, uh, the percentage growth from zero is infinite. I mean, really. I have a small platform. It continues to grow, and the people, the listeners who listen to this, it's just thank you, and the feedback that I get, thank you, really. Um, I every time I get a kind DM, it just makes me so happy, because it's I don't know, it's external validation, I guess. Maybe I'm just a people pleaser, but I also imagine that the head of Fanatics Collectible, Mike Mahan, will be there as well, and that's someone I would love to have on the pod too. Maybe, if Michael Rubin is not available, could they make him available? I don't know, but I just want to know. I just want to talk to someone about the process of card production and what the future holds for the hobby that we all love. So, card production, it doesn't really fit that well in the Hobby S Thompson thing because that's just not an area or phase of the hobby that we can put a hat on, right? It's a large corporation or a manufacturing company that's going to produce the cards. But yeah, I want to know their origin stories, how they are the way they are, the plans they have for the hobby, like I said. But again, I know it's such a pipe dream. Maybe I can make some inroads during national. I have no clue if that's going to happen or not. And if I'm too small of a platform, I would love to see other podcasters win, or not win, but like be able to obtain the interview. And I would love to know if what the metrics are that I need to hit with my podcast for folks of that caliber to come on. But if that doesn't happen, it's all good because I am so thrilled with the caliber of guests I've had so far and the caliber of guests I have set up and the ones I plan to reach out to. So that is a good transition, I guess, to the next part, or the last thing I wanted to say, which is, we're currently in the podcast, episode 2021, and it's about content creation, social media. And I have three amazing guests after, again, this records and will be published after the three-parter with Dr. Collectible. And I think we got deep with him. I gotta say, we get even deeper with my next guests. I've recorded two of them. One of them I haven't yet. It'll all make sense maybe later. I don't know. It may not even make sense, but this isn't going to be for everyone. When we get deep, I think some people they just want hobby card, current news content, and that's great. There are other podcasts for that. That's just not that's not what I'm going for. I did initially want to go for evergreen content, but with the things that I've talked about with guests or in these intros, it's not evergreen. But yeah, it's not about a particular card player price. For me, it's about the stories around the cardboard and the people around the cardboard. So, um, the other thing I guess I wanted to say was about content creation and this episode in particular, right? Because I started out about the hobbyverse, no, the hobby multiverse is I genuinely do not know if anyone else had the idea of that. And maybe someone, when that first Spider-Man movie came out in 2018, they had a podcast and they were talking about, oh, the National is where we all get together and it's like the hobby multiverse. I don't know, but there is this school of thought that there is no such thing as an original idea. I think that comes from the movie Garden State. Um, but I do consume a lot of hobby content, but I haven't consumed all of it, and I don't consume everything, especially before I came into the hobby. Although I did binge some stuff. Like I said, I've I remember reaching out to Rob, the sports car therapist, saying I binged all your past episodes, and he's like, "What? What did you do?" But especially when I'm creating content, I am consuming less of other people's content, so I don't know what's out there, right? But here's the thing. And this goes to content creation, and this is where we're going to wrap up. This has nothing to do with the national. This has nothing to do with my plans for that. But it's almost like when it comes to content creation, I feel like the reason so many people, including myself, want to be first in doing something is because we don't want to be, you know, uh, labeled or called, like a copycat. And I'm probably likely speaking just for myself, but I would rather make content that you know, sucks and I delete it or I apologize for it because it was incorrect or inaccurate versus making content that is good, but someone else already did it. Like, for example, someone already cracked a slab a certain way, or someone already, made a podcast episode or made a point about the hobby, uh, the national being the hobby multiverse. You know, I would, you know, prefer that it be good and not, and be original, but I would rather it be bad and then I delete it or I apologize that it was like, incorrect content because um I don't know, it's just my opinion that it's worth like it's almost like you can't refute someone thinking you're a copycat. Like at least I can just tail between my legs and just say, "Oh, that content like just wasn't it didn't land or wasn't funny or wasn't good." But I would rather that be the case. Um, Speaking about being copycat, I will say that I definitely have intentionally, right, like straight up intentionally imitated other creators, as a form of tribute. I've done that with the Cage Lawyer thing that the hobby news with Cage comes to mind more recently. But I think in that sense, imitation is the best form of flattery, and I am doing it tongue in cheek, and I'm doing it in a funny way. Or at least I think it's funny. But what gives me nightmares as a content creator is doing something that I think is original and I put it out there as if it is original, meaning, I'm not being jokey or tongue in cheek. But then it gets consumed and someone puts in the comment section, oh, so and so did that already. Or, oh, you got that, you stole that idea. It's like, oh, like that would really suck, in my opinion. So there are definitely times when I'm struck by an idea and I just like, I can't help it. I have to stop everything and I have to rush to execute it and publish it out as soon as I humanly can because it, at least in that way I just feel like no one can accuse me of being a copycat. So again, that's just like maybe it's my neurosis, I don't know, but there are times, and I definitely weave it in, like I don't like completely you know uh, throw away all my other obligations to do that. But I rush sometimes as a creator. As soon as I get an idea, I just want to push it out, publish it. So um, I did say this is not going to go an hour, so I should probably wrap this up. I'm really bad with ending these episodes. I have to find a more probably a streamlined thing to say at the end or something like that because I feel like the beginnings are so good and then they just you know I don't know, like right now. Okay. Final thing I want to say, the hobby is indeed escapism, much like movies are. And like my love for movies, um, I love the hobby. I will admit that I do watch a lot less TV and movies because I'm consuming hobby content or I'm creating hobby content. But I wanted to share all these thoughts in this interlude type of episode because I didn't think it was like a chapter episode about an aspect of the hobby. Maybe it's could be called like going to card shows. That's what maybe this is, but I don't know if you can be an expert in that. Um, but yeah, the hobby multiverse. I don't know. I so very much look forward to meeting all the other Spider Men and Spider Women in the hobby. So I'm really thrilled to meet some of y'all at the national. And if you're not going, I mean, I guess that's the final thing I'll say is don't feel bad. There'll be other ones in the future. This isn't the end all be all. Don't have FOMO. It's easy for, I guess, me to say because I'm going, but I'm not trying to rub it in anyone's face. There's going to be other ones, and with Fanatics events, which I didn't even talk about this entire time, but that could be a total game changer. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but there's definitely a lot of the hobby landscape just shifting and changing, maybe even evolving. So we'll see how it all goes. But again, my fellow Spider-Men, Spider-Women, uh, I cannot wait to finally meet you in person. So thank you so much. That is the episode 21 wrap up. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And for some of you, see you in 10 ish days.